Here we go with the script. Welcome to the February 18th, 2026 meeting of the Zoning Advisory Committee. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access the meeting via virtual means. Participants may access this meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. This meeting will be recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless and until you have been recognized by the chair. We will now confirm attendance of members. Please respond with present if you are on this call. Matthew Vronka.
Present.
Ron Foisey.
Present.
Arnie Cohen.
Present.
Khwaja Hassan. Khwaja, I think you're muted. I just would love to hear
Sorry, present.
There we go. Thank you. I am Ted Barker Hook, Chair of the Zoning Advisory Committee, and I am present. And then let's just run through some names that I don't think we're going to hear. Stephen Conti, Sravan Krishna, Sudeep Maiti. I don't think I've ever pronounced Sudeep's last name correctly, and I'm sorry, Sudeep. Adam Farks, Jacqueline Crow, Purvi Avlani. It looks like those folks are absent. And staff, Aniri Patel, Hopkins Principal Planner. Great.
Present. Thank you.
Great. Okay. We got a short agenda tonight. The first is to approve the minutes of, what's the date on those minutes?
December 2nd.
December 2nd. Thank you. I was able to read them ahead of time. Was everyone else have
January 2nd. Sorry.
January. I thought that sounded more correct. See,
One
Ron,
month or another.
of January 2nd, 2026. Did everyone get a chance to read them? Does anybody have any edits or corrections? Then if
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
And a second?
Second.
Great. Let's do a roll call vote to approve the minutes. Matthew Vronka.
Yes.
Ron Foisey.
Yes.
Arnold Cohen.
Yes.
Khwaja Hassan.
Yes.
And Ted Barker Hook is a yes to make it a perfect 5-0. Okay. The main reason we're here tonight is to continue our discussion of ADUs. I have failed the committee in not being able to find the notebook I wrote our last minutes on, but it seems to me where we left off was I was certainly of the mindset, but I got a feeling a lot of the committee members were feeling the same way, that if there was to be talk of some amendments, it might be through special permitting process more than by right process. I think we were exploring ideas. Right now, the ADU is allowed to be 50% of the footprint. We were exploring ideas to maybe expand that. I feel like we were landing maybe at 75% as a max expansion. Again, I think by special permit was the feel of what I remember the majority of the members. And there was also not just the size. Right now it's allowed up to, is it 900 square feet?
900.
There was talk of expanding that again, maybe by special permit. Is my memory correct? Does anyone remember any other significant where we left off?
That seems right.
And Ron, I think you're invested in this one, so I'm trusting your memory on this. Maybe I shouldn't after that minutes thing, December, January, but I am going to trust you nonetheless. So I had a couple questions as I was driving home today, and maybe Aniri, I should have written to you ahead of time, but hopefully you can field these questions. I know that when we met last time, one of my questions was, how do we do the wording for special permitting? What if it is anything allowed by special permit, or do you have to list what's allowed by special permit? Or can anyone say, hey, I just want to go ask if you'll let me do this? But the other question I had today was, when and how do things go to ZBA? If there's a denial from planning board, is that automatically a ticket to take your case to the ZBA? Is there a different process to go to the Board of Appeals? How does that work? And if we were thinking of a bylaw change, whether by special permit or by right, how does ZBA factor into the writing of that bylaw?
Okay, so usually I will suggest to clarify in the details if we are gonna amend our current bylaw, like specify that if you need, for example, if you need 1,000 square feet ADU, and we can like mention the size, frontage, and everything just to make sure what is going to be allowed by a special permit, and that will help that to clarify certain stuff for the planning board to review. And usually what happens if ZBA denied something, then it goes to planning board for petition. And if I'm not wrong, it's the same case for planning board. If planning board deny the special permit, then it goes to ZBA for petition. That I need to take a look. That what's our Mass General Law, because we don't have any specific mention in our current zoning, like Hopkinton zoning bylaw. We have a section for any denial on ZBA decision, they can go to planning board for petition.
So
I don't know, we have vice versa.
So to help me understand, let's say that
Mhm.
nothing changed. Let's say we have the current ADU law, which is max 900 square feet. Let's take out the percentage of size. Let's say that doesn't factor in. If it were right now today, could I go to the planning board and say, I really want to build an ADU, but it doesn't make sense unless it's 1,100 square feet. My current home is 4,000 square feet, so it's well within that 50%. Could I go to the planning board right now, or do I have to wait until the bylaw says by special permit you could do this?
So I think you need to wait till you, mention on your bylaw. I think somebody went to zoning board for approval as a variance for a larger ADU, but to go to planning board, we need to have some kind of wording in our zoning bylaw. So in the past, our old ADU bylaw, as per that, you allowed to go to planning board or zoning board for special permit for larger ADU, because we allowed 800 square feet. Since we adopted as by right, if you want larger, we need some kind of stuff in our bylaw to go in front of planning board.
So then to continue to help me make it clear in my head, if I wanted to do my hypothetical example, I have right now no route to go to the planning board, but I could go to ZPA to ask for variance.
Variance, yes.
And that doesn't have to be written into bylaws at all.
So it's not mentioned, but yeah, you can go for variance, not a special permit.
And a variance generally is a longer, more difficult process than a special permit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that helps me kind of get straight in my head. If I went, let's say we did have language for a special permit, if you wanted to go above 900 square feet. If I went to the planning board and asked for my 1,100 square foot in the yard of my 4,000 foot house, and the planning board said, no, we do not grant the special permit, could I then go to ZBA for an appeal, or is that a different thing because it's no longer a variance and I got denied something within the bylaws?
I can check, but I think for that I need to check our Massachusetts general law. I don't think we have that specific mention on our bylaw. Just give me a second.
Okay. And maybe, I don't know if Arnie or Matthew, as members of ZBA and Planning Board, have an answer to that last question. If not, we can wait for Aneri.
Mind repeating it, the question?
Sure. My question was, if our bylaws, there's a lot of ifs, there's a lot of hypothetical in this, but I'm trying to understand the processes that a applicant might be able to go through. If we changed our bylaws to allow by special permit larger than a 900 square foot ADU, and if I, excuse me, I'm sorry. If I went to the planning board asking for my 1100 foot ADU by special permit and they denied it, could I then go to ZBA and say, planning board denied this request, but I'd like to go to you guys, will you approve it? Does that now become a variance issue? Is it still, is an appeal on a special permit? How does that work?
Well, I don't think I can answer that
Okay.
question off the top of my head. I'm wondering why. I know on the Board of Appeals, it seems like we've heard those types of things. I'm not aware that they went to the planning board first, but I don't know. Ron went through the process. He might know it better than I do. Is that what
And
the
if
law
nothing
bylaw
else,
says?
we're buying an eerie time. So Ron, can you share your experience as someone who's talked about these things?
When I was starting the process of going above and beyond the by right, the building department told me I had to go to the Board of Appeals to require a variance for a size change. So that was the direction. And then all of the paperwork that I had to fill out to go through that process indicated that this is the only way that you can get a change in square footage based on the current zoning.
Currently, but that doesn't necessarily answer my question. If we had special permit language that was then denied by the planning board, what happens? Is there another route?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
the Board of Appeals, believe has, we grant special permits. I didn't know. Do you think it's something within the domain of the planning board?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the
No,
question.
I don't. As far as I know, and I think it generally is, special permits are a Board of Appeals, but every town is different. And even though I'm on the Board of Appeals, I can't say. I think the answer probably is that you just go to the Board of Appeals for a special permit, but you'd have to look at the bylaw itself.
And Mary, have you come any closer to figuring out? No. Wait a second. Okay. It's just if we are considering suggesting a rewrite and special permit and stuff, it's helpful for me to understand the different routes that may or may not be available depending on what we write up.
So maybe we have to define who grants the special permit, because I think different boards may be able to grant different permit, like based on what the bylaw says.
Depending on the bylaw, okay.
Yeah.
So I just check on the state, Mass General Law. So if planning board denied special permit for larger ADU, then they cannot go to ZBA.
Then that's the
Because-
end of the discussion.
Yeah, ZBA cannot act as an appeal court, or like they cannot go for a variance, and in that sense.
They cannot.
Yes, once, like if we add a specification in our ADU bylaw saying that if you want larger ADU, you need special permit and you need to go in front of planning board. Usually planning board issues special permit in this case.
Yeah.
But if for some reason PB board decide to deny the application, so applicant cannot go to ZBA board and appeal that.
Okay. It's not like working your way up the court
Yeah.
system until you
So
get
Miss-
to the
Yeah.
court.
So, Mr. Chairman, A question for Anira. Are you saying that the Mass General laws say that if somebody wants to get a special permit to make a larger ADU, the statute actually says that that's something to go to the planning board about?
So usually in other towns it's like that. That usually for special like larger ADU you go to planning board for special permit. Even just like how we have in current bylaw that if you have one ADU on your property and if you need second one, you go to planning board for special permit. So
Is
it's
that
just
that's in the statute or some regulation?
so it's not mentioned in our Massachusetts ADU one, which we adopted, but usually that's the process other towns and everyone adopt. If you need more than one ADU, you go to planning board for special permit.
Well-
If you need larger ADU, then unless until as Matthew said, if we want we can specify that you need to go in front of.
I think it is what it is, but I know that generally speaking, special permits go to the Board of Appeals, not the planning boards, but there might be variations. I'm not sure whether there's any variation in Hopkinton. I'm not aware of it, but generally speaking, special permits are to the Board of Appeals, just like variances are.
I'm fairly confident we have
Ted-
plenty of special permits that go through planning board. Not
Yeah, but we definitely grant some as part of site plans. For example, we just granted one so that it was a stormwater thing would be within the buffer zone. So Chapter 48, Section 9, though, is the general answer. Zoning ordinances or bylaws may provide that certain classes of special permits may be issued by one special permit granting authority and others, but by another special permit granting authority, et cetera, et cetera. So that's
okay. All right. So I wish that we had a larger committee tonight, but you got to be on the field to play. So we're on the field. If you're comfortable, I wonder if we can go around the circle and hear what people's thoughts are. If the ball were only yours to play with, what would you do with this discussion? Would you say, I think right now I don't want to make any changes. Let's have some more time to figure out how the state's laws will play out in Massachusetts? Would you say, I am open for changing things by right, and here are some numbers that I would throw out to kick around? Are you in a middle ground where you're open to maybe allowing some special permitting? What might be framework around that? And then I guess, would you like the special permitting to go through planning board or ZBA? So if you're comfortable offering thoughts, I think that might be a way to move us to a next step. Ron, I'm going to save you for near the end because I think you presented and I certainly want to hear what you have to say, but I think I also kind of have a guess at some of it. So maybe Matthew, because your picture is biggest on my screen right now, if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear your thoughts and we'll just work around the circle.
That's what I get for talking last. I'm leaning towards the special permit, in part because I don't know that we've completely worked out the plan and what its impact, like the formula and what its impact would be. The concern that we've raised in the past has been trying to, fit the context of the neighborhood, making sure that there's a dominant primary residence versus an accessory and that sizing. And I don't know that in my head I've got the right formula to really make this by right now. In terms of who grants that, ZBA is fine. I don't have a strong opinion right now on that. I think ZBA is fine.
And if we were to write up some, without asking you for numbers, would you be open to changing the square footage? Would you also be open to, or instead open to changing the percentage of the ADU compared to the size of the primary residence? Would you be open to, right now, I think a second ADU is not allowed by right. Would you be open to allowing that by permit? Where are the places you'd be open to playing with numbers?
I'm less comfortable with a secondary ADU. But I'm trying to just trying to find the notes that we had last time we talked about this for the numbers we were throwing around. The square footage, I think I was fine, kind of increasing. I'm a little bit more based on the need to separate a primary from a accessory unit. What was the proposed number that we had for the percentage? I think we had suggested increasing it. I think I'm fine increasing it. I think I was fine increasing it slightly with what we were discussing, with still capping the maximum or increasing the square footage, still having a cap on the percentage of the total size. But I think I'm flexible on both sides as long as we can find the right numbers to make sure that we're still instilling a dominant and an accessory unit.
Okay, thanks. Kwacha, do you have thoughts? Where would you land if this was your decision to make, or at least how far have you gone if it was your decision to make?
I haven't gone very far, but I would, I don't know enough to make a comment, but I would probably going through that your first proposal, like going through a special permit kind of stuff, probably will make more sense to me.
Okay, so you're feeling at a minimum that changing by right allowances might be a step too far for you.
Yeah.
But changing with some special permitting feels better.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have thoughts at all on allowing a second ADU, or would you want to keep that as a single ADU?
A second ADU is, I don't feel very comfortable.
Okay.
And
All right.
it doesn't make sense to me, I mean, at least.
Okay. Arnie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I probably have more questions than answers. Under the statute, what does the statute say? Does it say that the town has to, by bylaw, can increase the amount?
We certainly can go above what the state says.
Yeah.
That's the whole
I
discussion.
feel comfortable about that.
The question is, if we want to do that, would you want that to be expanded by right, or would you want it to be through a special permitting process?
Well, I just have a higher number that they could get, just increase the square footage that they can do it as of right. Is that what you're?
I'm asking if you are comfortable with
Yeah.
changing the current law. The current law, as we sit here tonight, is a resident may, assuming setbacks work out, a resident may currently, without asking any permission, you got to get, I assume, building permits and stuff. You may build up to a 900 square foot residence, no bigger, or 50% of your current residence, whichever is less. So if you had a 1,000 square foot house, you could build a 500 square foot ADU. If you had a 2,000 square foot house, you could build a 900 square foot ADU by right. At the beginning of our discussion, I think the proposal was expand the square footage by right and expand the percent of the ground floor area by right. That's where I think the initial proposal, and I don't remember what the numbers were, but that was our initial proposal. What Matthew has said and what Kwacha has said is they might be comfortable expanding both of those numbers, but through a special permitting process, not by right.
Yeah, I mean, I think passing, regulations are like passing statutes. They have the effect of statutes, and I think when the legislatures pass statutes, they really examine them pretty closely and have a lot of expertise. But just in general, though, I think having it by a special permit, if it's above what's allowed by right, makes the most sense.
Okay.
I know our Board of Appeals is, I've observed, is very liberal as far as granting people these things.
Yeah.
I would note.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't generally give them a hard time, except for Ron, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome. Ron, where are you landing right now? I know you gave the original proposal. Are you sticking with it or have you adjusted?
Well, what I would like, Ted, would be 1,200 square feet or 75% by right.
Okay.
But I wouldn't really like to recommend that to the planning board because I don't think by right is going to have a shot at being advanced by the planning board or the town. So
Okay.
I think if we look at the Affordable Homes Act, the whole goal was to make more attainable housing. And the more we restrict things, the less housing is going to get built. So it kind of goes against the thrust of the thing there. And if we go back to our last meeting when we talked about the average sale price of 1.1 million in Hopkinton right now, and 900 square feet is the total square foot allowed by right. If you take a $500 or a $400 per square foot building cost, that 900 square foot ADU would be worth $360,000, which is nowhere near half of what the average house is selling for today. So I think increasing by special permit allows the town to make sure that this thing fits in with the character of the neighborhood, as opposed to saying by right, you can build whatever you want as long as it fits within the square footage.
Okay. And what about the second ADU on a property? Do you have a thought there?
I think the current process of a second one needing a special permit is already sufficient.
Okay.
I mean, that can all be granted. And in this case, I think the special permit through the Board of Appeals is the right place for it to go.
Okay. And my apologies to everybody for not knowing this off the top of my head. Is that what we currently have? Is a second ADU? We currently have a special permit process for that?
Yes.
Okay.
So as per our current bylaw, if you need second ADU, you need special permit from Board of Appeal. And I
From the
just
Board of
checked
Appeals.
on. Yes, so I just
Okay.
wanted to correct myself. I thought that's through planning board, just like for other special permit, but no, it's through Board of Appeal. And I just cross-check on Mass General Law. If we mention that on our bylaw that they need special permit for larger ADU from Board of Appeal, that we can do, but we just need to clarify.
But we could make it through the planning board as well.
Yes, but
Yes.
again, you need to mention that as well on the bylaw.
Right. Is there
Mr.
a chance,
Chairman?
Neri, you could tell me where in our bylaws that second ADU is? I think I'm looking at the right pages, but
So it's, let me tell you it. Option D under draft article ADU. It's a setback dimensional, that paragraph, and number I, special permit. I can share my screen if.
that would be great. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Probably would save time over. I don't know if other people are scampering through their own copy.
Okay, can you see my screen?
I see it's getting ready. Whoop, and it disappeared.
Hold on. Just a. Okay. Okay, can you see now?
No, it disappeared again. I get that screen that shows it's about to pop up and then it goes away.
Please restart screen sharing. It's on. Yeah, somehow
Okay.
it's not allowing.
That's okay. I trust what you're saying. So a second ADU is allowed through special permit through ZBA right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We about
So bullet number I mentioned that.
Is this under, maybe I'm looking at the state law. CMR 71.
That's state. That's state.
I don't have our, darn it. All right.
Can
That's why I
I-
can't find it. Or I couldn't find I couldn't find any of it. Okay. So here are my thoughts. My thoughts are these. As I said at the beginning of this discussion some months ago, my original conception of ADUs was to help with family. My conception has shifted, partly because the state's conception has shifted, and partly because I am interested in expanding our more affordable, attainable housing in town. So in those respects, I am sympathetic of allowing more use of ADUs. I am certainly not in a place where I want to change anything by right. I think that we haven't tested this law long enough yet. Among other things, while we do have a year of not very much use of it, we also have a year where interest rates have stayed fairly high, and it might not be the time to do those kind of investing yet. But I am open to cautious adjustments by special permit, and I would certainly favor going through the planning board on the special permits, not ZBA. I don't know what those numbers are. I'd have to think a little bit more and listen to you guys a little bit more. But I think what I would be in favor of is what? I'm sorry? No? I think what I'd be in favor of is us moving the discussion forward by putting together a draft of a bylaw amendment that would indicate exactly the things we're talking about. And maybe, I don't know, we could start with Ron's numbers just because he's the only one who's thrown out numbers, and say, let's have a special permit. Let's see what a draft bylaw would look like so that we have some hard words to discuss. If we allowed by special permit through the planning board, up to, I think you said 1,200 square feet or 75% of the primary house lot, whichever is smaller. My initial feeling is that might be a little bit too big for me to accept, but I'm willing to start there and say, let's see how that feels. And maybe let's do a little looking around the town, see what that might be. Neri, is that something that you could kind of draft for us before the next meeting, or is that something that we should be drafting? I have not done a lot of bylaw drafting myself.
I can do the drafting.
Okay. Does that feel, folks, like maybe what we could then chew on next time if we actually looked at what that draft might be?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Arnie.
not that I want the added power or anything being on the Board of Appeals, but I think it ought to be the Board of Appeals. I heard the planning board on site plans gives permits, but that's different than a special permit under a zoning bylaw. And I think it should be it's just the way it's done. And I don't like it when you have all these, one board does it, you divide it up between different boards. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be the normal situation. If you look at the zoning statute and you look up, the town can have whatever permit granting authority, it can be different. It can be either one, I guess, but so that's just the way I look at it.
Okay. I guess my response is I think it's already divided up, and that's just the way we do it in Hopkinton, that some special permits are granted through ZBA and others are granted through planning board.
I don't see any. That's the way Ron did it. He went to the ZBA, which presumably was the right way to do it.
But he went to them for a variance, true?
What's that?
He went to the ZBA for a variance, which is different from a special permit.
Well, but they're the same thing. I mean, it's
No, I don't think they are.
The way it is that special permits and variances are along the same exact. They're part of the zoning law. They're not part of the planning board. Generally speaking, doesn't administer the zoning laws. I was on the planning board, and I was elected 3 times, 3 5-year terms in town of Sharon. We didn't do any special permits. And it's a small thing. I mean, maybe it doesn't make any difference, but I don't see any rationale that that you should. Well, if you want a variance, you go to one board, but you go to a special permit, you go to the other. There's no, there's no real rationale, and it's normally that's just.
I guess
my prejudice, I guess, being a lawyer and just how I understand how the law is set up, and having an experience at it.
yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I'm in the wrong place, but Sharon's way of doing business isn't necessarily the same as ours, and we have
But I think
plenty
I've read loads of cases about special permits.
Right.
It's almost virtually always, special permits, variances. It's Board of Appeals. So,
in Hopkinton, the planning board has plenty of power for special permits.
but
That's
the only
simply a
example I
fact.
gave were site plans, and site plans are a different category. I think it's not. I think it's more typical that planning boards might have jurisdiction over a site plan. So.
Okay, we could go back and forth. Do other folks have thoughts? Because if an area is to write up a draft proposal, it might be helpful if we're delineating which board it goes through.
So the other ADU related special permits, like the second unit, et cetera, those also go through Board of Appeals right now. Is that right? I'm trying to find that.
Is that the
Yes.
only other special permit right now? When you say the other permits, isn't there just one?
I'm not sure. That's
Okay.
why I'm trying to look it up.
I'm not aware that since I've been on the board, that we've ever had somebody asking to have a second ADU.
So,
Yeah,
Chair,
please, Aneri, help out.
let me just summarize. So since I joined, and I think we discussed this a few months back regarding ADU, we did not receive that many applications, none application for more than one ADU on the property.
Mhm.
There are a few inquiries, but they never made it to building department for permits or like that. We only have one bigger ADU, the Ron one, which went to Board of Appeal for variance because as per our current adopted ADU bylaw, which clearly says only allow 9,900 square feet or 50%, not 9,000.
Think on that, Ron. 9,000 square feet.
Yes, everybody be like, oh. And our current ADU bylaw mentioned that if you need more than one ADU, you go in front of Board of Appeal for special permit.
Right.
That's mentioned, and that's our current adopted ADU bylaw. So I will let board decide.
Okay.
Planning board issues special permit, but for a lot of other reasons, it also depends upon what's the zoning of the property. For example, if it's under open space zoning district or neighborhood mixed use district, then their rules and regulations are different. So then in that terms, we need to review those special permit or master plan rules and reg. So planning board issue site plan as well as other special permit related to that. On a zoning side, if I'm not wrong, they usually issue the expectations and basic special permit and variances. So we can do both. We need to mention in our zoning bylaw, but I will just suggest we don't want to create more confusion for applicant.
Sure.
That saying that, but and also even if we do two authorities, that for larger ADUs you need to go in front of planning board for a special permit, and for more than one ADU you go to Board of Appeal for special permit. But we need to make sure that if planning board denied larger ADU, you cannot go to ZBA for approval, or
Okay.
ZBA will not review or authorize anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ted, special permit may be granted by Board of Appeals for conversion of existing single family to accommodate. This is all under ADU. So there's a couple other instances under the ADU that already go through Board of Appeals, parking. So I think I would tend to agree that CBA just fits better here.
Okay. Okay. I'm just letting you skim more to see if you see anything else or if you have anything to add.
I mean, skimming through, as I mentioned, I think a lot of the other cases about zoning, special permits related go through ZBA. So
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. So there's that. The last bit then, so it sounds like, Aneri, maybe we ought to be drafting wording that says special permit through ZBA, even though that's not my preferred route, but it sounds like that's where it fits. So the last thing I want to make sure, if we're going to draft this wording to discuss, is the thing I kept saying, we got to come back to that. We got to come back to that. Since now I know I'm looking at the state regs, short-term rentals, municipalities may establish restrictions and prohibitions on the short-term rental of protected use ADUs. I think that I feel pretty solid about this. We absolutely ought to have wording forbidding ADUs for the Airbnbs. If our goal is to try to create more affordable housing so that Hopkinton is more available for full-time residents, that has nothing to do with an Airbnb. And I don't think what we're trying to do is create potential profits for a landowner to be able to rent out a place on a weekly basis. I think that we could probably look at models of other towns that have the short-term rental restrictions. Going back to my notes, I think Southborough, Ashland, Westboro all have language against short-term rentals. I think Upton, Grafton, Shrewsbury have this, Sherburne, because I only wrote notes where they had no language on short-term rentals, and that was only true of Holliston and Dover, of the towns I looked at. So I would certainly be in favor of adding language, and we can look at what those other towns, how they're presenting it, to restrict short-term rentals of properties. And in my mind, we're talking about Airbnb stays. I don't know about what is a short term and what is a long term. A 6-month rental to me feels very different from an Airbnb situation. So I think maybe looking to other towns for their language and then deciding what we like, maybe the route to go. Do you guys have thoughts on that? Is anyone completely in disagreement with me on Airbnb?
It's certainly something that I think we may want to consider it town-wide rather than just addressing the ADU thing. Are other towns doing more restriction on short-term rentals? I mean, I don't know what goes on at the lake, but I've got to believe that there are some properties there that are verboed or Airbnb'd, and is that good or bad? I don't know.
And, I don't know either. And maybe that's a different sandwich to bite into another time. I could also see, there's some talk about Hopkinton and tourism. We got the park and people come swimming for the day. I don't know if that's tourism in a grander way, but we do have the marathon, and I could see Airbnbs for marathon use for people who are flying in and want to settle into town rather than being bussed out of the city. And I'm not sure that I want to close the door to that opportunity. But for now, we can talk about that as a grander thing another time. But for now, as long as we're potentially proposing changing our ADU law, I think it makes sense to put in here at least some short-term rental language. Because I, as much as I've shifted on ADUs for affordable housing, I certainly haven't shifted on people just slapping up some sheds to make a quick buck. So, is that something I think, Aneri, you could look at for other towns and see what their language is? Is that within your bandwidth?
Yeah.
We're not giving you too big a homework assignment?
I can take a look what other towns have.
Are there any other thoughts on this issue? This is our only agenda item, and at least for me, until I see it written up so that we can kind of have a further discussion and maybe think about what those numbers mean. But is there anything else for us to consider or for Aneri to consider before we call it an evening? I don't see anything. Aneri, do you have a pretty good sense of what we're hoping to see?
Yes.
Okay, good. Shall we talk about another meeting? You guys up for that? You guys have been pretty steady attendance folks, so we can cross our fingers that some of the other ones will be able to make it. Let me think. 2 weeks from now puts us in the first week of March. Is that true? Oh,
Chair,
yes.
can we do next sec after March 9 planning board meeting? We have MBTA on planning board agenda, so I'm guessing that next couple of weeks gonna be a little bit busy
Okay.
after the
And we could
following
go,
meeting.
since what we're talking about now, obviously is not going to be in any town meeting this year.
Yeah.
I just don't want to lose momentum. But I will tell you this, I will be out of the country the week of March 15th through 21st. That's during my 2-week spring break. And I'm going to actually, I almost never travel during spring break, but I'm going to be traveling, visiting a friend in the Dominican Republic. So if we go past, what did you say, a March 9th planning board?
We can do March 11, like on
Or we
Wednesday.
could go all the way to the 23rd, 25th.
That's fine. That's
I don't
fine.
have a strong preference for either. And maybe if we gave it further, then maybe it gives Aneri a little more time with busy planning board work and town meeting prep.
Well, the 23rd is a planning board also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's one of those Wednesdays would be the.
And you had planning board on Monday this week, Matthew?
Yes.
No, it's President's Day. This past
Oh,
week was
okay.
President's Day.
Oh, past week,
Upcoming.
yeah.
I don't want to I wonder when my next Concom is in. Aneri, you don't by any chance at all have the Concom.
Yes, so the next
What are the
ComCom
March
gonna be
meetings for Concom?
March 10th gonna be the ComCom. Then March 11th, a Board of Appeal. Then it's gonna be March 24th gonna be ComCom, and March 25th gonna be Board of Appeal as well, as of
And
now.
what about March 30th? Is that free for the planning board?
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
Okay. So as much as I don't want to lose momentum, are you guys comfortable putting our next meeting on March 30th?
I have a conflict with that unless it's after my kids are in bed.
Okay. Would you?
You won't be able to. I'll be traveling.
You will be. Are you traveling on the Wednesday as well, or will we be back by Wednesday of that?
No. I'll be traveling starting on the 26th, and I won't be back until like April 5th.
April 5th. So anytime that week's going to be rough for you.
No, before 26th is fine.
All right, let me pull up my.
I'm leaving on the night of 26th, so. Evening of
Oh,
26th.
I see. Oh, you're leaving the 26th. So you could do, but 25th is a Board of Appeals meeting
Yes.
and 23rd is a planning board meeting.
And 24th ComCom.
So that week is out. Because nobody
March-
wants to meet on Friday, so.
Is March 2nd not a viable option?
March
I think-
2nd's just gonna be
That's really hard for Aneri, it sounded like.
yes.
That was our, if we did an every other week schedule, that would have been our next regularly
Right.
scheduled.
It's just, that's really taxing for Aneri.
All right, so we'll be out in April sometime.
So it sounds like we got to look at, I assume April 6th is a planning board?
Mm,
Yes.
yes.
I assume April 7th is a Concom?
As of now, it's not on a calendar, but I'm guessing it's gonna be because usually
Yeah.
planning board and ComComs are
And is April 8th a ZBA?
April 8th. Yes. we can do Thursday. I mean, Thursday sounds.
I can't do Thursday. My wife
Okay,
is
so-
on committees that alternate
Here's-
every other Thursday.
So here's what else is true. We do have a vice chair. And it is true that the vice chair could lead a meeting while I'm in the Dominican. My biggest worry with that is not Ron leading the meeting. It's the 5 people I see in the room seem to be the reliable ones. And if any of the 5 of us can't make it, I get nervous about whether we're going to reach a quorum.
Okay, I can try to do March
How about
4th.
that March 16th, 17th week? Is that, did we actually?
That's when I'm out of the country.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry, I forgot that part. I missed that part.
So, I mean, we could roll all the way into April.
Hmm.
April 13th is a Monday.
I guess. Don't see any other choice as of now.
I'm looking
I
at the-
can, how about Chair? I can try to do draft. And if it's done next week, we can do March 4th. I mean, you can
Gary, I'm
select 2
going to
options.
make the executive decision to not put that on you. You asked very nicely to see if we could give you some time for the planning board. And I think the work of the planning board is much more pressing right now than putting together a bylaw proposal that may or may not show up on town meeting 2027. So I don't want to do that to you.
It's just we gonna have a very big agenda for March 9th meeting. And
Yeah, so I
we
don't
have
want to do that to
public
you.
hearing. So,
So let's just look at, what did I just say? Monday, the 13th?
Yeah,
that's fine.
Looking at folks' calendars, does that seem good?
I don't have that far out, so yeah.
Okay. So why don't we just do that, and we'll take a breath. I feel good. It's not that we're shirking our duty. We're truly looking at the calendar and we're judging our attendance for this year and who we've come to rely on to be here. And it simply only seems to work that way if we put it off that long. Yes, Aniri.
And also on the topic which Arnold mentioned starting of the meeting, I'm not going to discuss that in the details, but John informed me briefly this morning that Board of Appeal is thinking about some changes on the bylaw. I don't know in the detail. It's just he briefed me out that.
And as a matter of fact, as I was thinking about the 13th, just before you said that, that also gives us some time to see what John is thinking about and maybe adding that as a second agenda item, because we'll have plenty of time to kind of flesh that out. And I'll try to touch base with John to see what he has in mind as well.
Yeah.
Does everyone feel comfortable with that? It looks like not a super excited yeah, but it looks like a yeah. Okay, with that, it is time to look for our final motion of the evening at 7:53.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And there's a second. Where's my attendance sheet? I probably don't need it. You're all right in front of me, but I like having it. There it is. Motion to adjourn and a second is on the table. No discussion. So let's vote. Matthew,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Quadja,
Yes.
and Ted Barker Hook is a yes for a unanimous vote. Thank you, guys. Aniri, there's no rush to get that out, but if you can get it out, say a week before our next meeting, that'll give us time to look at the language or something like that.
Yep.
But that still gives you, I think, over a month or like almost
More
2
than.
months.
Yeah.
So hopefully that works for you.
Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for attending.
Great night.
Thank